Okay, today we're going to be looking at the array methods, and some of them we're just going to look at. The first one, I'm just going to create a variable called results, and then I'll try one of these array method. So the array we want to work on is called dots. Now, what does the method do? The method gives us the ability to be able to manipulate the elements of the array. Okay, let's say, for example, I want to reverse this array, reverse the element of this array. So I can use reverse. So the reverse is a built-in method for JavaScript that actually helps to what reverse the array the other way around. So if I try to run this now, you're just going to see, okay, save it. Just make sure I'm in the right place. Okay, I did not pray that. So now if I console.log out this result, right, I'm just going to have the array being what reverse the other way around. So that is actually what we want to test for. So let's run that quickly. So if we do that here, we find out that Tom is not coming first. So the array is reading from the bottom to from the back to the front, right? From the last to the first. So that's the reverse method of the array. So we can also do some other stuff like the push method. So we can say array.push. The push method is actually a method that you can use to put in data into your array. So let's assume we want to add another name. So let me just say another name. So let's assume that's the person's name. So we just added another name and we want to see the array. In this time, we're going to see the array, the result itself, the former result, which is called names, just to see what we had here. Before now, this was what we had, the names. Now that we've carried out this operation, we've pushed in a name into it. So we can as well, just check out what the new array is going to be. So what this is going to do is just to add an element to the array. Is that okay? So it's added to the end. So this is very useful in the case of validation. For example, you want to test or you're trying to shop for items. So you click on the item. So you push it into an array. Is that okay? So that is it. And you use that just to push. Then we also have the very simple method, which is called the pop method. So the pop works in different way, a little bit different from this. So if you use, say, this names.pop, you will get a separate answer when I run the other way around. Now, names.pop, I'll say, sorry, it's pop pop. Now, name.pop, and what it's going to do is going to take off this first member of the array out of the array. Now, just know that this does not really change the contents of the array, really. It's just temporary, on a temporary basis. So let's print out the array and see our result first. So if we run that now, we'll pop out one. We're just going to see Sylvester. Tom has been popped out. So Tom has been removed. In other words, as the case may be. Right. That is it when it comes to, adding and removing from the array. There are a lot of methods that you can actually use in the array. There's an array called, method called includes. Dots includes. So we want to check out that it includes. Now, what this includes actually help you to do, it helps you to check if a certain stuff exists, and if it exists, you're just going to say true. So I want to check if Collins actually exists here. So I'm going to put this and to check if Collins exists. That is what it means to dot include. Does this array include this data? And if it is yes, it's just going to say true. So let's just print out the result here and see. And if it is not, it's just going to say false. And let's do that. So we're going to be getting a Boolean, either a true or a false. As you can see, true, because in this array, we have a data called columns. So you can actually use this for a search or to determine if a certain data actually exists in this area. So we can move on again from the columns. We can just put in something else. Let's assume we are looking for below. And as you can see, below does not exist in that array, right? So we're just going to try and see that. So it's going to tell us false. So the include method, what it does is to actually check out the array and see which one exists. And if it doesn't exist, then it's just going to tell you false. And if it exists, it's just going to tell you false. There are a lot of array methods that we can talk about, but we're just going to be discussing some of them. So I'm just going to show you some of the array methods here. on W3 School. So you can always come to W3 School to check out all the methods and use them. You read your documentation just as I said. So you can actually delete an element from an array. You can unshift, you can shift, then you can unshift, then you can copy, then you can splice. I think the splice, I'm going to make use of the splice. Now what the splice does is that the splice method can be used to add new items to an array. So you can use the splice method to add new item to an array and tell the position that you want to add it to, then you add this to other item to it. So you can always come in and read the documentation. As I said before, now there is a lot to learn when it comes to reading of documentation. So we can't possibly go through all the array for now. So you just take some time. There is a sort, there is pop. I think I've talked about pop already. There is an array to string. You want to convert the array to string, right? There's also something like that. And there is array length, which is actually a property which we've used before now. So that is some of the array methods that we can use. So you can just try them out at your own leisure time. Now, at this junction, I think it's time for us to move into another data type, which is called the set. So I want to move into set. So what is actually set? Now, set actually happens to be a data that does not actually repeat itself. So if I create an array, for example, if this were to be an array, let's say number, I want to make this number 12, 13, 1, 0, 8, 4. Now, we said let number be this, right? And as you can see, okay, let's assume we have another 4, we have 13, and we have 5. We have 12 again. So as you can see, we have some repetitive kind of data. If I try to console.log at this record, I'm going to see exactly what I have in here. So if I try to console.log out this, which is num, oh, typo. Okay, if I can try to print out this num, I'm just going to get exactly what I had in here. So as you can see, this is it. So I'm getting exactly the same thing I had in here. So if I try to move this upward a little, you can see this is the array. So everything is arranged in this manner and everything is just exactly the way it is, right? But for a set will not print out the repetitive data. So any data that repeats itself, it won't print it out. It's just going to cut it off, right? So let's quickly create that of a set. Now, I want to create a set. I want to say now to create a set, I'm just going to say let's assume you're trying to create some kind of questions for people, right? And you don't want the questions to actually repeat itself. You don't want a kind of a repetitive question, right? You are creating a question in a database and you don't want the question, and sometimes you just pick the question randomly from your database and you don't want the questions to actually repeat itself. So you can put that in a set, right? So let's assume these are questions. So we say let questions equal to, so we're just going to store them in an array, for example, and array like this. For example, you can say, who is the president of the US? That's question number 1. Then the question number 2 can just be, what is my name? And question number 3, I'm going to repeat the first question I asked earlier. It's still going to be, who is the president of, of the United States, of the US? So you all know what we're going to get if we try to print this out. You know what we're going to get, definitely. We're going to get something exactly like this repeating itself. But in the case of set, you can't get something like this. Is that okay? So I want to turn this to a set now. How do I turn this to a set? There are several ways of doing it. I can hard code this in a set. Is that okay? And then try to print it out. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to say question. Now, to make a set, you're going to use new set. Now, because it's a class, you're making an instance out of the class. So what it means to make an instance out of a class is that a class exists as a blueprint. So for you to be able to use what that class contains, you're going to make an instance out of it. And the instance you're making, whenever you're making an instance out of a class, you use the keyword new. Is that okay? Then the name of the class you're making use of, then you put your parentheses. Now, whatever variable that you save this into, it's now called an object. Is that okay? So let's quickly move on. So what this means is that we just made an instance out of this. And here is the record I actually want to print out, put in here. So I'm putting this record in this array. So I want to try to print out that same array and see if I'm going to get the same, answer. Okay, in this case, I'm just going to take out the array because I'm not dealing with array, as I said before now. So I'll just take away the square brackets. So I'm writing this directly in the set now. So we want to see what the set will be able to make you, or will be able to do. So let's do that and try to run this code again from here. Okay, I think, it's still printing out this one. So I don't think I need this again. I'll take this off. So all I need to do is just to console.log questions. So that's what I want to do quickly. So I don't know if we have any question on this. Do we have any question? Okay, so let's proceed. So here we have, we said console.log is equal to questions. They want to check what the result will be. Not save, still printing out the old one. Okay, so we're trying to bring out this. We said, oh, okay, I know why it's giving us this, because we've done something very nasty. I think I should take it very simple. I've done something very nasty. I wanted to put this in an array before now. So just put it in an, put it in an array, the square brackets, and try to run it. And that's why we're getting that. So sorry about that. So as you can see, here we go. This is what it's showing us. It's showing us just two records. Who is the president of Nigeria and what is name? It's supposed to be what is my name, right? So it's just saying us these two records. What is my name and who is the president of the United States of America? But that is not the only data that we had in that. Is that okay? We had three data. So we have three questions. We have this question, the president of the United States of America, though it repeats itself twice. So what it's just going to do, it's just going to say, okay, this who is the president of, they are all the same. So you're just going to pick one. So it's going to count it as what? One. That is the purpose of a set. So a set actually makes you not to repeat your data. So if there's any repetitive tasks, maybe you are assigning gifts to some set of people, and once you assign a gift to some set of people, and maybe you can just mark the set of people, but let's just assume that you have some group of people and you say, okay, I'm just assigning group of some people from this region. Is that okay? So if you have two people from the region, it's just going to assign to one. That's all. Is that okay? So what that means is that you're creating a set. There are various methods that you can also find in a set. You can find the length of a set, right? But what you cannot do in a set is that you cannot find the index of a set. So let's say, for example, you want to try to do this in a set, you're just going to get a very fat error. So if you try to do this in a set and say, okay, I want to get this first index of 0, no, it's not going to work because a set can rearrange itself in any way. So you're going to get a very fat error doing that. So it's saying undefined because the set does not index. Is that okay? You can get the length of the set, which is already written here, which says 2. When you're printing out the set, you can see the length of the set. Is that okay? You can clear the set as the case may be. You can delete the set as the case may be. So these are some of the methods that you can actually use on set. So a set actually helps you to write, to actually print out data that are not repetitive. I think that is good enough for now. So I'm just going to take that off. And the next one we're going to be moving into is what is called the key pair values, which is called objects. So what is called objects in JavaScript? In some programming language, they call it dictionary. So this kind of data is a data that has a key and it has a value. So let's take, for example, we want to create let's assume we want to create this as a profile. So we want to say let's profile, right, equal to, now in this case you're using a curly braces. Don't forget, in list or in array you use square brackets, in set you use your parentheses, and in objects you use your curly braces. Please take note of that. So the first one comes is name, and this is what is called the key. This is the key, right? Then the value is what I'm going to be placing here. So that value should be my name, Sylvester, right? So we have a key and we have a value. So to separate them, you use a column. So this is the syntax, a key, pair, value. So this is just one record. So when you're done with that record, you can move to the next record. So let's move to the next record. So the next record is going to be maybe age. And I can say 27. I'm above 27. I'm an old man. Okay. So we're going to be having age equal to 27. That is it. And we can still add more, as many as possible record that you want to add. I can say this is location. So the location could be Lagos. Please take note how we write this, because there is what is called JSON. Very similar to this, so you don't confuse it for this. There's what is called JSON. So if you look at the JSON, in JSON, you normally put in your key, you put a double quote and you put this, it becomes JSON entirely. Is that okay? JSON means JavaScript object notation. So that's what we're going to be using most times, especially when you're trying to get data from database, you're trying to send data to the front end, trying to get data from the back end. So it comes in form of what? JSON. So it's just a data kind of format, right? So, but in this case, we're not using that. So we are doing the other way around, which means that it's only the values that should have a quote. Why are we having double quote? Is because these are strings. And you can see there's no quote here because this is a number, as the case may be. So if we have a character as well, it's just going to be the same. For example, I'll just ask a question here. Are you married or married? So I'm just going to do that. Married, even with a question mark. Then we're either going to get true or false. So you can see I just added another stuff, which is a Boolean to it. So is it married? True, without a double quote. So this is called a key pair value. But how then do we assess this key pair value? How then we assess it? For example, I want to assess the location Lagos. How do I assess that? So I'm just going to create a variable here, say let result equal to. So this is what you do when you want to assess a particular value. So the value that we want to assess, we want to assess Lagos. So for us to be able to assess Lagos, we're just going to have profile dot, what is the key of Lagos? It's called location, right? So with that, boom, we are good to go. That means that is definitely going to print out Lagos as a result of what we just did. So if you check that out and we save and test this, we're just going to have Lagos being printed out, right? Similarly, if you want to get the name, you say location dot what? Dot name. That is, you want to get the name Sylvester. So you do location dot name. And boom, once you run that, you're going to get the location, just like that. So these are some of the stuff that you can actually do to this. Then you can also get the length of this, this object, because it's an object. So you can get the length of this object. Now, a way of getting the length of this object, you're just going to do this first. When you want to get the length of the object, you say object. There's a method built in. Then you say object dot. Then you say keys. So you want to find out the keys. Is that okay? How many keys do we have in here? So these are the keys. Keys. So object.key. So that's what you want to find out. So you say object.key, then you put that in. So what object.key are you looking for? You're looking for object.key for profile, right? That is, you want to check the keys that you have in profile. So this is the way you do it. So after that, you put a dot, then you say length. And at this point in time, what you're trying to do, you just want to get the length of this. So please note this. What you're doing is an object.keys. You want to count the number of keys here, 1, 2, because the keys actually determine the amount of record that you have in there. So it's counting the keys. So you're saying profile. That is the keys for profile. This is it that is trying to look into. Then whatever it is, then you then say dot length. Dot length will now help you to get the total length of what you have in there. So if we run this easily, we're just going to get 4. That's because we actually have 4 data. This one is the first one, right? This is the second one, right? Then we have the third one. We have the fourth one as well. So if I decide to add in another record, so let's assume I want to add in another record to this. I add in a record. Let's assume this record is going to be sports, right? Maybe your favorite sport. In my own case, it's football, which is known as soccer in some part of the world. So this is football. So that's what I'm choosing, and it has increased to 5 now. So if I come in here to check that length, so I'm going to see 5, no longer 4. So this is the object. So why do we actually need these key pair values? So we're going to be applying it in the nearest future. You can actually need this to actually access your database or to access a record. So let's put all the things that we've learned so far in place. So in this case, we're just going to do a simple application of the data type that we've learned so far. Now, this data, we're going to call this data, we're going to call it a profile. I think I would like to call this profile as well. Now, this profile is going to be an array. And this array is going to be taking objects. So the first object is going to be name of the person, just like the one we did before now. And that is James. And the age, maybe 30. And place, maybe Abuja. So let's do that. So these are some of the things, record I want to put in here. So this is just one. So I'm just going to scale this properly so we could actually see this. So you can see this is an array. So this first record is the first array index of 0, right? I can also make more records like this. So I can put in another record like this, right? And in this case, this is not going to be James. This is going to be Fanny. And the age here is going to be 37. And the place is going to be Lagos. And we're also going to add more to this as we've just done. So this is going to be CC. And the age is going to be 23. And our place is going to be Onitsha. And let's add one more again. So we're going to add one more to this. And this is going to be Kelly. And Kelly age is going to be 30, and Kelly is from Accra, Ghana. Okay, so this is what we have so far. So these are records of objects. Can you see that? And to be frank, this is how the database actually looks like. So the database looks exactly like this. With something like this, you can actually access the first member of the array. You can access this array. You can access the second array. You can access the third one, and so on and so forth. So if I try to access the second array, what will I do to access the second array? Very simple. So I can come in here and say profile, right? And sorry, I want to access the first array. So I'll just do console.log out here. So So I want to access the first member of the array. So the name of the array is called profile. So this could be a database as well. And the member I want to get is 0. So that means I actually want to get a record for this first item. So if I try to print that out now, I'm just going to see that first record. And boom, here we go. So we have name, that is James, age is 30, place, right, is Abuja. That's the first record here. And what if I want to access the first member? For example, I just want to get the name of it. So I want to get the name. Let's assume I want to access the name. So how do I do it? I'll say .name. I want to get James, right? It's just going to print out James out for me, right? That is it. I can find James there. Now, if I make the index to be 2, you can guess it. That means it's going to print out this. It's going to print out CC and the H. So I just want to print out this without any of the key. So you can do this and you try to access this. And boom, we are good to go. CC and a place is Onitsha. As simple as that, right? If I want to access a place, I can just say 6C index 2, then dot place, because I'm actually dealing with an object. So if I try to run that now, I'll just get exactly Onitsha. So very simple. Okay, it's just going to print out the nature and that is it. So you can also decide to loop through everything you have in here, right? Because it's an array. So you guess that, right? So we're just going to do the for each to loop through that. So we say profile dot for each. So we're going to use the for each loop method. So it's a method. So we're going to put we're going to say each method, each data here is going to be called data. So we just call it data. And we use the arrow function and we can just quickly console.log out. So I'm using the shortcut method. So you can decide to do the full one, but we are still on the same plane. So this is data. And here we go. Oh, I wanted to call this data. I think I just mistyped this. Okay, and we can save this now and try to run this out. I will see all the records just like that. All the record has been printed out. We have 4 records and that is it. So we've looked through all the members of the array. We've applied all that we needed to do. We've used all the array methods. We've talked about set. Now, we're going to be rounding up in the next section. Thank you very much. Bye for now.